The United States finished fourth in the CONCACAF Nations League of 2025 at SoFi Stadium. All the promise, all the excitement fell flat. Losses to Panama and then a loss to Canada 2-1 in the third place game. And if you saw my last video, I did bring some fire and brimstone, and rightfully so. But the reality is we have a World Cup to look forward to. And at the end of the day, this may not mean anything, or it might mean everything, depending on what happens in 440 days, 15 months. A lot of games and a lot of decisions, and an opportunity awaits for Mauricio Pochettino and the U.S. men's national team. I'll tell you exactly what that is here on the Soccer OG. Come on, folks. Like, subscribe. Let's get to 5,000 subscribers. Smash those buttons. Leave a comment. I love the discourse. You ask me a question, I will answer it. And we can just have a conversation. I'm here for all of it because misery loves company. And I'm pretty miserable right now, but I'm not going to sit here and let this team ruin another glorious Sunday. And that it was here in Southern California. I gave up my tickets for the third place game. I had a long MLS weekend, so I just wanted to watch the game at home. Obviously, as we're going to talk about the malaise around the program, but I want to say this to start off, because I remember ahead of the 2014 World Cup, Mexico was in a much worse shape. We're losing to everybody. They sank so far down, they had to go to the playoff to make the World Cup. They squeaked by New Zealand, and once they got to the World Cup, things fell into place. And I'm not saying that's going to happen to the U.S., but when Mexico got to the 2014 World Cup, they beat Cameroon, they beat Croatia, they tied Brazil, they should have beaten the Netherlands, no era penal, in the round of 16, and I mean, they were almost a quarterfinalist. And if they made the quarterfinals, they would have played Costa Rica, so serendipity may play its role here, so we've got to keep our heads up. And there is an opportunity for Mauricio Pochettino. I'm going to get into this. And look, I wanted to talk about the game and break down this, that, and the other. I don't think it really matters. This game, you wash it away, but you take a lot out of it because it was an experimental 11. I think there were 5 changes. Mauricio Pochettino going to the MLS pool to fill out the gaps, including bringing in Max Arfsten, starting Patrick Agyemang, starting Diego Luna, who is a big part of what I'm hoping can be the rescue job, can be the revival. Diego Luna is our guy because he did something, and Max Arfsten did it to a lesser degree. He did something that nobody else did. I want to talk about we're not going to sit here and dwell about the empty stadiums. It is what it is. The Mexican fans gobbled up those tickets. This is a CONCACAF tournament. They're going to make their money. I'm recording this before the final, but it's going to be a madhouse. And so far, it's going to be a glowing success for CONCACAF. And, it looked good other than the empty seats. But this is the reality. Nobody watched the USA game. Nobody cares. It's behind a paywall, which is fine. All the soccer's behind a paywall. But nobody tuned in to CBS Paramount to watch this game. It was tucked away. And that is, there is... If we don't care about it, then the masses won't care. They'll tune in for the World Cup. So maybe it was a good thing they didn't tune into this, because it would have just made them say, well, why do I care? But we handle things the wrong way. We don't promote it. There are no players on this team that people care about. And I'm sorry I have to be blunt, but whether it's Christian Pulisic or Weston McKennie, the poster boys, there's nothing. There's no PR about them. I don't think they really care about what's going on here right now. They're just focusing on one step at a time. And that's I don't like that, but it is what it is. I will say that in past World Cups, I remember there was a little more excitement around the national team than what we have in 2025, which is crazy considering we're hosting the World Cup. It just doesn't feel like people are getting hyped up about it. I know they will when it's here, and it'll get better if the U.S. does well. And I feel there's a possibility here. There is a possibility. So this very quickly into the game against Canada, I was going to sit there and say, okay, is there a reaction? A little bit. There was a little bit of a reaction. But I could see very quickly, they had one shot. It was a goal, a really nice goal by Diego Luna setting up Patrick Agyemang. Big Pat. But other than that, I think it was the only shot at all Canada was applying the pressure. Canada looked better. Canada looked more intense. Canada looked more dialed in. So it was kind of the same what we saw with Panama, which further feeds the problem for the United States. So when I watched the first 30 minutes of this game, I said, okay, this is who we are. We have to make a pivot. We have to do something. We can't just look at this team and say, okay, they're going to flick a switch. The team as it's built right now is not going to flick a switch. And that's why I'm glad that they laid an egg against Canada, because now Mauricio Pochettino, who is no dum-dum, Mauricio Pochettino, he's had his flaws in his coaching career, but he's no dum-dum. He knows he can't trot this out again. And the old Einstein quote, the definition of madness of doing the same thing over and over again. He knows he cannot. Because of how this, if there was a reaction against Canada, maybe he could salvage it. But he is going to go into his cave or whatever, and he is going to try and fix it. And he is going to fix it by turning to players that he feels he can trust. And I think that is the salvage point. I think if you are Pochettino, after this game, I hope, well, I don't hope, perhaps it happened. I'm not privy to this information, but he got into that locker room and he said, well, things are going to be different here. And maybe he singles out Diego Luna. And I'm going to say again, Max Arfson, who had this great run to prevent a Jonathan David goal, he's a kid from Northern California, never thought he'd be in this position. He goes out there and he played with some huevos. I'm glad what Max Arfson got in the 11. And you know what that told me? That he did that in training to earn that opportunity. He's in. He's done more at that left back position than I have seen Joe Scally do in 6-9 months. Passion. We need passion. Passion to me exceeds talent at this point, because the talent is not fixing or is not resolving issues here. So I hope Mauricio Pochettino looks at Max Arfson, looks at Diego Luna and goes, guys, these guys, they died for the country today. They did everything they could. The rest of you, you did not. These guys, I will go into war with. Sorry about the war analogies. I'm just trying to make a point here and certainly hype up the dramatic element from Mauricio Pochettino. These guys got after it. These guys earned the right to wear that shirt. Diego Luna was buzzing everywhere. Diego Luna's my number 10, and I bet you it's Mauricio. Diego Luna broke his nose and played on for this country. Diego Luna is the bright spot here, and there he can be the point of inspiration. So what does Mauricio Pochettino do? I think you take a hatchet to this thing. Now, there are a lot of guys that, Matt Turner, Scally, Weah. Tim Weah, I just can't sit here and wait. As we said, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa. Yunus Musa looks, we keep saying, whoa. And I've had these conversations with people, and it's coming to roost right now. And this is a new phenomenon, so we didn't know was a fact until now. Going to play in Europe doesn't make you an automatic into this U.S. men's national team squad. I think most of the national team squad is going to be made up of European players, but just because you're Joe Scally and you play in the Bundesliga, you get the nod over Max Arfson or DeJuan Jones or whomever else. Those days are over. And I think Mauricio Pochettino is going to take it to task because he did play a lot of MLS players, or if he's going to play Liga MX players, or if he's going to play players that are in Europe playing for lesser-known leagues. This is that opportunity to fire it up. And the Gold Cup rolls around, or these European friendlies, and you don't call in Tim Weah. You don't call in Joe Scally. You don't call in Weston McKennie, if you're going to take it to an extreme. You don't call in Yunus Musa. Let them stew about it, because you still have time to fix this. See if they really want to play for this national team. We can talk about the guys on the periphery. It's not about them. It's about what we saw from our core group, as I said in the last game. They didn't do it. Another invisible game from Christian Pulisic, among other players. I think you go for it, because Mauricio Pochettino has nothing to lose. Is he going to bring out and do this again at the Gold Cup? Maybe. I think he's going to have some serious conversations with people. There was a moment of insubordination from Christian Pulisic, who again was invisible, didn't want to come out of the game. If I'm Mauricio Pochettino, if that happened to another big-time coach, if that happened to Didier Deschamps or Lionel Scaloni, I know it's the big star player, but there would be repercussions. And I don't think you don't bring back Christian Pulisic. He has built up a lot of equity and clout, and he is the guy, but he is hit a rut. We can't rely on him. Can't rely on a lot of people. And look, if we make all these changes and we bring in Diego Luna and Max Arfson and Petra Gajimang for the World Cup and they don't hit the targets, I think it's worth a risk, because what this group is doing, they didn't flick the switch. I don't think they're going to flick the switch. You have to make big time moves. And I think Mauricio Pochettino is thinking about that right now. So while I think Christian Pulisic and probably Weston McKennie and a couple others are safe, some of those other guys that fell in that malaise are not. And Mauricio Pochettino, he's going to be like, all right. He's going to look at those tapes. He's going to see it. He's going to see the lack of effort. And he's like, okay, this is salvageable. And there is a precedent for a team that was playing really poorly in CONCACAF and were able to do great things in the World Cup. I still have some faith that that can happen. I want to mention Gio Reyna, because I see on social media, everyone's like, put in Gio Reyna, like this guy is going to come in and fix things with his talent. There is no doubt he is talented. But Mauricio Pochettino has followed Nuno Espirito Santo and 3 Dortmund coaches who, for one reason or another, have not played Gio Reyna. I know he's not playing every day, and they said he wasn't fit, but he hasn't been injured. He has been training, so he's good enough to go for at least a half. That didn't happen over 2 games. And I just want people to know that if you think Gio Reyna should play because of what he did a couple years ago, when you look at all of this stuff that has happened in his career, and yet manager after manager after manager, including Mauricio Pochettino, do not want him in that 11. In fact, Diego Luna got the start over Gio Reyna. And let me tell you, after what we saw against Canada, there's no way Gio Reyna is jumping Diego Luna at this point, because Diego Luna he's got it. And we need him. He could lead us here. He should be that man that could be a huge star, I hope, after all of this. But with we're happening, that malaise, these players have to be held accountable. Mauricio Pochettino's made mistakes. He's not off the hook here, but it's still his team. He's going to coach it through the national team, and he's no dummy, and he's going to look at this team and say, okay, all right, I can trust this guy. I think he likes guys like Jack McGlynn or whomever else. I think that there's the possibility. Or maybe he gets in the head of the star players and they go, okay. But playing in the European leagues and being a hot shot, not paying off. This is a feel-good show. Let's pick up the spirits and let's get excited a little by little. We have time. And I trust Mauricio Pochettino, and I think some good will come out of this. The Soccer OG. Like and subscribe. Hit that like button. Follow us here. Let's get to 5,000 subs. Come on. Let's get to the World Cup.